Good evening, I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. The Iran deal, suspect secret nuclear weapons program, the political events and the military questions and the IAEA's demands and the agreement from Vienna. All of that before us tonight. Also, later on, we will be joined by Bill Whalen of the Hoover Institution and Mary Kissel of the Wall Street Journal editorial board. They are watching very closely the Republican debate. There were two debates, an earlier debate, and now a debate is still underway. The first meeting of the Republicans, and they're specifically watching for foreign policy matters tonight because of the Iran deal, but also domestic matters. So we'll hear from them later in the program. Right now, Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, Major American Jewish Organizations, joins because the Iran deal is before us. Within these last hours, there have been significant events. Not only the president's speech at American University yesterday, and we will speak carefully of that address and what the president's case and also the president's harsh words for the Republican Party, but also the political events subsequent to the president's address. We have one tonight, a report in Huffington Post that is also reported at Haaretz, which is a major newspaper in Israel and is now being reported across the Middle East, that the very powerful and significant legislator, the man who is slated to be the leader of the Democrats in the next Congress, Charles Schumer of New York, will indicate or will announce or will continue to say that he is opposing the Iran deal. Malcolm, a very good evening to you. First of all, we don't have it in the news so much as we have the report everywhere. Do you allow that this is accurate, that Charles Schumer will oppose the Iran deal?
I do believe that it's a credible report. It's coming out in at least two sources, and I've received some calls from the press about it, and obviously have said that I can't verify it yet until he makes the announcement, but it follows this afternoon the announcement by the junior senator from New York, Gillibrand, that she will support the deal. She's a member of the Armed Forces Committee. We had a long discussion. She called me this afternoon. I was certainly disappointed in her decision of going public now, but and I'm not suggesting that it's related to the timing for Schumer's announcement. I do anticipate that more will come out in the last couple of days. Nita Lowey, a very powerful member of Congress.
Nita Lowey represents Westchester County, and that is Mrs. Clinton's district. So Mrs. Clinton, candidate for the presidency, her congressperson opposes the deal.
And she was long a leader in the Appropriations Committee, other committees, a very important member, long-term congresswoman.
Steve Israel. DCCC,
Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Extremely effective partisan for the Democratic Party.
And very loyal, very strong. And he came out, and what's interesting, and I hope the listeners will take the time to Google him and read the actual statements, as opposed to what reports say. And we all know that the reporters don't necessarily get right what is said, but read their original report accounts, as well as that of Ted Deutsch, who has been a guest on the show.
Ted Deutsch of Florida.
Right, yes. Member of Foreign Relations Committee, a very important member, wonderful congressman. And I anticipate that others, we are waiting to hear from Eliot Engel, the number 2 on the House Foreign Relations Committee.
Who has already said he has hard questions and has difficulty supporting the deal.
Right. So I think we'll see after Schumer if there are, what do they call it, coattails, and we'll see whether
this is a significant number of significant Jewish legislators in the House and the Senate we're now talking about. That has weight, Malcolm. Do you believe that the White House is listening to this, that it is not just what the White House says, the Israel lobby, or it is not just people speaking for Israel, but it's legislators, Jewish legislators in the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party saying that they have doubts that this deal confirms what the White House is claiming, that Israel is more secure, that there's less likelihood of war?
Well, I think it's not just Jewish members. Many non-Jewish members have spoken out.
A lot of people are saying it, yes.
And you're right to cite that these particular individuals, but they're only part of a much larger group. I anticipate that obviously the Jewish members make up a small percentage in the House and of the Senate, and we will see across the board bipartisan and probably a majority that will come out in both houses. The question
opposing the deal, a majority opposing the deal.
But the question immediately will be, after the president's promised veto, and something he reiterated to us again when we met him this week, and that whether there will be 2/3 of each house to override. But I think now is not the time to.
I'm not counting heads. What I've been told, Malcolm, is that anybody who says he or she knows doesn't know.
And those who know don't say.
Right.
But the truth is, nobody knows. We see the polls. The polls show consistent support by the American people against the deal. There's suspicions,
2-1, and rising.
And the speech yesterday, which was supposed to be one of those landmark speeches, it was a very powerful address by the president, but not. I don't think it was persuasive.
The president said that the IRGC, which is a war-making machine, is making common cause with the Republican caucus. There is no caucus. It's a Republican conference. I'll forgive the president for misspeaking. It's a Democratic caucus. But in any event, Malcolm, that was a surprisingly ugly remark from a president to turn this into a partisan affair. I want to turn to the facts. Within these last hours, Josh Rogin and Eli Lake of the Bloomberg View have reported that there is satellite evidence, commercial satellite evidence and intelligence evidence, that there is much activity, earth-moving, building activity at the Parchin military reservation that has been off limits to the IAEA. The IAEA has thousands of pages, I'm told, questioning the activity at Parchin over the last dozen years, because that is believed where Iran was experimenting with weaponization of nuclear weaponry or nuclear fuel. And that would leave a fingerprint of radiation in the soil and the building materials in the site. And the allegation is that there's sanitizing going on.
And the half-life is very long, and it's very hard to remove it. We know, and we reported on this program years ago already, when they started removing the first layer, the second layer, the third layer of dirt based on photographs. And now they put 6 layers of concrete, right, and over it. And now they're going back and undoing and trying to remove even more, to remove any trace. Now, replicate that by all the other locations, and what else will be done if you give them 24 days notice, or you have to give them a longer period.
Or they get to sample their own soil.
And that's the alternative. That with Parchin, the report is, because we haven't seen the document, it's secret, that they will. And already people are focusing now on the violations. There's a very interesting story that broke. We have talked many times with this audience about Qasem Soleimani, the head of the commander of
a man responsible for tens, if not hundreds, of American deaths during the Iran war.
At least 500 by most estimates, but Iran Revolutionary Guard, more than anybody else, responsible for the death of Americans and in conflicts in the region.
He was sanctioned. What is the status?
So now he was sanctioned on various levels, international, national, American sanctions. He was in Russia July 14th. According to these reports, they even have the airplane ticket. The story is breaking, and this was between the assurances when he was first mentioned. They said they didn't know him. Then they said it's a different Soleimani. Well, in fact, there are two Soleimanis. One was the head of the nuclear program. One is the Al-Quds commander. The commander still is, in fact, included, but it's supposed to be in 8 years. But this is a clear violation. He is not allowed to travel under the current sanctions. Now, if we're seeing that these are being busted and that Russia allowed him to come, what confidence can people have that the sanctions will actually be being maintained? And it raises serious questions now, and I think it will have a real impact, that people will start questioning if such a high visibility person could violate the international sanction against allowing him to travel, to go to Russia and to return, and nothing was done to stop him. This is a problem.
Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, Major American Jewish Organizations. Again, we lead with the news that is not confirmed. Remember, in war, the first 3 reports are wrong. We're very cautious, but the report is in Haaretz in Israel. It's in the Huffington Post in the United States, and there's said to be multiple sources on this, that Charles Schumer, a very powerful leader in the Democratic Party who is slated to be the leader of the Democrats in the Senate in the new Congress, will vote against the Iran deal when it comes before the Senate in September. Malcolm Hoenlein, I'm John Batchelor.